Hello, Ali Boyle. Just brilliant to see you again. We have had a good long blather actually before I pressed record, so we're all up to date. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah.
And of course, the purpose of this little mini series is just to check in with some of the 50 thrivers, especially those who recorded their voice on the book, as you have, and just to see, have you been thriving through COVID? What's that journey been like for you? So let's go there first of all.
Yeah. I think it's been interesting, COVID, I think, for everyone. There's definitely times I've not been thriving, but I think like everyone else, you've got to try and make your way through it, and for me I had certain advantages because of my health. I've been locked down before, there's times my bloods are so bad I really can't go out or I'm just not well enough to go out. So I had a bit of awareness around about that and I could think about it. And I also had the advantage of having spoken to you, because being part of this journey really changed the way there's lots of stuff I did to try and make myself a better person and come out of things stronger that I couldn't think of, I couldn't really formalise what the process was, and you helped me do that. And I think that's been brilliant, and because I thought about in the way in, I want to come out of this a better person, I want to find a way of working this to my benefit. I've really had to work at it, and the process and being able to think about how the strategies that I used to cope really led me to revisit them. Mm-hmm. So before I would really focus on perspective, things could always be a lot worse, and try and think about, keep a kind of understanding of how fortunate I've been. And what I've done now is that's changed for me, because the upside of that is always that you realise how better things are for you. And what I'm trying to do now is really formalise that and really think about gratitude. Mm-hmm. So instead of just being a perspective of things could be a lot worse, it's actually thinking about how grateful I am that things that I am there. How grateful I am that my health hasn't taken a turn for us. How grateful I am that I can be quarantined, if you like, or shielding. I've spent 4 months shielding. Mm-hmm. I can shield with, a lovely family and a nice, safe, healthy environment. I can exercise. I can all the things I need to do. And I don't think I would have perhaps put as much effort into that if I hadn't been part of this process. I think if it taught me anything, it's that if you want to come through adversity well, you've actually got to work at it. You can't leave the house for 4 months. You've got to really work on yourself.
That's well put. So yeah, it's not going to be easy. You need to know that, and you've got to apply yourself. And we did have that chat before I pressed record on the difference between perspective and gratitude that I had never quite thought of before, even though I've interviewed the 50 thrivers, I've written the book, and it's just such a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Shifting from, look, this could be worse, to actually I'm consciously grateful for this, and this, and that. Gratitude is so much more powerful. You're facing in a positive direction versus maybe perspective where you're facing in a negative direction.
I think it's, because even if I just take my health and I think I've not needed a stem cell transplant yet, that might lead me to think about the journey I'm going to end up on, rather than, well, here's all the stuff I should be grateful for. Mm-hmm. And I also think it's easier to, if you just take a bit of time every day to think, that line, every day might not be good, but there's good in every day. If you take that bit of time and really think, right now, what are 3 things I'm grateful for? It's a great perspective, and I think it helps you keep that perspective. It's really, as you say, it's really powerful, and it's made a big difference to me. And another one I think is, I've really thought about how I speak to myself. So if I've had a bad day, or I've not exercised as hard as I have, or I think one thing about people who are driven is that they're really fierce self-critics, and I think sometimes that can be quite harmful. And I've really thought about forgiveness. So not just forgiving others, but forgiving myself for if I've had a bad day, or I've put on a bit of weight, or my self-discipline hasn't been what it could be. Yeah, and I think that's been really powerful as well. I think I feel like I've looked after myself a bit better than I might have.
Well, you said something interesting Because I said, yeah, talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. And you said, well, hang on a minute, because familiarity can breed contempt. So you could be a bit hard with your best friend, or maybe not as hard as we be on ourselves, but pretty hard. And rather think about someone who's more remote from you and how you would talk to them if they were saying, you know, I'm a fat slob because I put on a stone during lockdown. Or I haven't worked out enough.
Really. There is when you're family, but with your best friends, there's no niceties. You lose a lot of that, you know. Yeah. And I think if you think about someone that you've not quite, they've come to you for help, you haven't quite got the relationship to the point that there's that shorthand, or you know, you're still trying to be careful and conscious of how you word things. I think that's a really good way to think about it, because it really leads you to nurture and support and encourage. And you're very careful about that language that you're putting in there, because you're putting in nothing in there to discourage or to abuse or, you know, criticise. That's what I'm, you know, trying to think. If someone was in front of me asking for a bit of help, how would I put it?
I think that's brilliant. That will change the way I forever talk about self-compassion.
You know, it's like I'll come away from this and I'll immediately think about all the stuff I should have said. And think, oh, I wish I'd said that, because I said it in the preamble. I maybe put it better then, or, you know, when we had a wee chat beforehand. But actually, what I'll make myself do is think about, right, what are the bits that you said that you think, that was quite good, I quite liked it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That will be so helpful. It's helpful to me, and I imagine it'll be helpful to anyone watching this. And are there any other tips in your bag of tricks?
I think for me, the other part that's carried me through, and you know me very well, is I need a purpose. I've always needed a purpose, and for me, when I was no longer able to work, that was about finding, you know, a positive out of my condition, and I managed to do that. But obviously, lockdown meant that the work that I do, a lot of the charitable work, I couldn't do, and so I really had to revisit my purpose, and I managed to get involved in another couple of charities using my experience, you know, for patient involvement, which was great, and I just picked up a new job with the health board, you know, for a day a week, and I was really able to think about how can I use that purpose to my advantage to carry me through, you know, so not as a distraction, but as a kind of reminder of your self-worth, of the privilege it is to help others, of the privilege it is to be with a group of people who are fiercely driven. You know, the health board I'm involved with, we're all of one mind, and that mind is it's about not just reducing health inequalities, but inequalities generally, whether that's, you know, gender or race, about preventing people getting ill in the first place rather than just fixing them when they're not ill, when they become ill. That's an enormous privilege, you know, and I'm so grateful again that I've had that opportunity, you know, and that's something I've really thought about on the way through, and I think that part of it, of not just finding a way to make you a better person, but finding a way that you can contribute to make others better, is the greatest privilege on earth.
Yeah, and I have to say that was massive for me when I was doing this project, and I spoke to you, and there were a notable 3 or 4 other thrivers, including you, together with you, I should say, who really brought home for me how important purpose is. That the truth is, I think, that we cannot thrive to our potential unless we have a clear purpose where we're able to make a positive contribution in the lives of others. And, you know, and thank God I had that insight before we went into lockdown, because that was one of the ropes that I clung to pull me back up from just surviving and existing back into thriving again. So thank you for that.
Yeah, but that the conversation we had before we started, you know, about the way you've used the skills and experience you've got to help others, and in so doing, you've really helped yourself, you know, and helped yourself psychologically, and with that bit of perspective, everything was brilliant. What a brilliant lesson it is for everyone.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did hit a low point and then grabbed from a manuscript, leafed through it, said, what's the one thing I can do to shift back up to thriving? And it was that, you know, just reach out. You know, we've got all this insight on resilience now because of this research. Yeah. So many thousands of people are in lockdown. Why don't you put the 2 things together and see if you can make a difference? I couldn't have done that. I was just a conduit to share the stories, your story and the story of others, and the insights. So it was a real privilege to do that. But as you say, it helped me as much as it helped anyone that I spoke to on these workshops and webinars. Yeah.
I think the other part for me is that what the journey has been is it's reminding me that kind of mindfulness and really thinking about your mindset is as important as, you know, I'll make sure I exercise, you know, once or twice a day. It's as important as that, you know, and actually you've got to be as focused, and you've got to have a plan. Just the same way I'll write out all my workouts and when I'm going to exercise. I really think, right, when am I going to make time for myself today? When am I going to read a book, you know, it's going to help develop me? When am I going to sit and do a bit of meditation or think about things to be grateful for? You know, you've got to really invest in that. And the one advantage of lockdown is you've not got the excuse that I've not got time. And I think that's been useful for me. As I've thought, what am I going to have? Well, I'm going to have nothing but time. Let's really think about the bits that I've been missing from my life that I've maybe put away, saying it's because I'm too busy.
I completely echo that. Ali, completely. I have a morning routine, meditation, journaling, gratitude practice, and that even comes before that comes before my run and my swim. It's the mental health is as important as the physical health. Some would say even more important, especially at times like these.
Absolutely. I think that because I'd had a period where I'd come out of a long period of isolation in terms of my health, and I'd come out thinking that I didn't come out that well. I was really determined that when this happened, and we'd started locking down me before lockdown occurred, I was really determined that I'm not doing that again. I'm coming out something. At the end of this, I want to look back and say that was better for me. I spent my working life telling people nobody's interested in you when things are going well. You know, it's when you something unfortunate or untoward happens, or you make a mistake, that's when people look to you to see your real character. And for me, I've always been determined that I'll live up to that myself. And this was another one. You know, there's no way I was coming at this a worse person than I headed in. And again, you know, I genuinely think being involved in this project and all I've learned from the other thrivers has really helped me. Really helped me.
Well, that's something for us both to be hugely grateful for having met one another, for having you on this project, and for us being involved in the project with the other 49 thrivers. No,
it's something that you look back. For me, it's like being the health board. You know, it's an honour. It's an honour to be able to help or share your story or do just the tiniest thing to help others.
Well, you've done it again, Ali. This video will help others. It's been such a pleasure to have you on this mini-series. Thank you.
Thank you very much.